think if we're sitting at around like 60K Bitcoin a week from now, my plan is probably to try and sell like 50% of my portfolio.
GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily show where our crypto insights stick the landing like gold medalist Simone Biles. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we're taking a controversial view. What if the bull market is actually over? This is a question that Zeneca asked this week on his Twitter. A little bit of a controversial and conflicting response, which we're going to go through. But today we're going to give Zeneca a chance to explain himself and explain his thinking behind this take, which you might not like to hear, but it is important to hear, because if all you're doing is thinking bull, 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 then you could get stuck in a trap. Zeneca, great to have you back on the show.
Great to be back, as always. Back with a different tone this week, I think, but an important one, and we'll dig into it.
Okay, let's start off with your tweet, which you put out a few days ago. You said the bull market might be over. I don't think it is, but it might be. And you should have a plan just in case. Like if Bitcoin is mostly down only for the next year and hits 18K, ETH gets to 900, Sol hits $28, ... Are you prepared? Why did you put out this tweet?
So I put this out the day that everything kind of crashed massively. Like Japan increased its rates, everyone panicked, and Bitcoin went from, it was like basically like 63K or something to 55 in the matter of a day or something like that. It just completely fell off a cliff. Everything fell off a cliff. ETH went down 20-25% in a day, and everyone was kind of panicking. And it had been a drop after several months of choppiness. And I've been thinking this for a little while, like, is the bull market over? Have we already hit the cycle top back in March or whatever when we peaked over 70K? Or are we getting what most people seem to be thinking is this sort of like, we're consolidating and then we're going to get another leg up late this year, Q4, or like early next year. And then the real market cycle top will be sometime in 2025. To be completely clear, I think that is probably still the most likely scenario, but I think there's a very reasonable and certainly a non-zero chance that we have topped this cycle. And I just think that based on my conversations with the people and what I'm seeing out there on Twitter and in Discord and just in the ether, it seems that most people aren't prepared for the situation of what happens if it is over. And by that, I mean, most people have close to 100% of their crypto deployed into risky assets. They don't really have any dry powder, so that if it is over and if we do crash back to like, sub 20K Bitcoin, sub 1K ETH and sub $30 Sol, they don't have anything to buy the dip with. And it's just sort of, I think, important for people to think about, even if it doesn't end up with you changing anything. I'm not telling people go out and sell right now. And I didn't mean to sort of instill fear and panic on a day where people are already fearful, because one of the worst things you can do is panic sell out of emotion. But it is important to be thinking about that and have a plan just in case, no one knows what's going to happen. And things could crash, and have a plan for that.
Did this come from a change in your investment thesis or the fundamentals, or is this more of an exercise in taking a contrarian view in order to challenge yourself to see the other side, so you're not so blinded by crypto Twitter and by the, we're going to the moon, bull, bull, bull type thinking?
Yeah, I mean, if people who've been listening to the show for the last month, I think, have been hearing me talk about consolidating into the majors. And even last week, I think I came on and said I was a little more bearish than most people. So it's just sort of like a continuation of that line of thinking where maybe I'm just seeing a different Twitter than most other people, or like just the sense that I'm getting. I just keep, like, my spidey senses are tingling, and I keep seeing and hearing all these things that make me feel like I'm just not as bullish as perhaps a lot of other people are. And so the tweet went out, and it was really like, whenever I tweet something like that, it's like I ask myself that question first, and I'm like, I've been thinking that, like, what if it is over? How should I be positioning myself? What actions should I be taking with my portfolio, with my strategy? Should I be selling certain things? And again, it goes back to what I've been talking about of selling the higher risk meme coin and altcoin and NFT bags, and holding more of the majors, perhaps even holding some more stable coins now. And like literally for the week prior to the crash, in my head internally, I was talking to myself and saying a lot like, if Bitcoin is, 60, 65K, I just want to sell like almost everything and just sit in stables for a while. I didn't do it because I've been off this week with family, and I have these thoughts all the time. Everyone probably does. And it's like one thing to think them, it's another thing to act on them. And inside me there was another side going, well, yeah, that's a bit silly and excessive, and maybe it's better to just hold and it'll go back up. So I, I certainly don't believe with a high degree of confidence either way. But I think the fact that I don't have a high degree of confidence either way is probably a reason to be selling a little more than not. So yeah, that's kind of like where my head's been at. And again, my position is different. Everyone's situation is different. I guess it was sort of like me trying to tell people to think about this, and everyone has to think for themselves, because if you have $1,000 in crypto, it's very different to if you have $1 million in crypto. If you're a 19-year-old with no responsibilities and you're making decent money, it's very different to if you're 35 years old with two kids, a mortgage, and very little disposable income. So like everyone is different. You have to think for yourself. And that's really what the tweet was designed to do, to make people think like, what happens if it's over? Are you over leveraged? Are you overexposed? Is this going to ruin you if prices just crash? Because it can happen. Like, just don't have your blinders on and think it's up only no matter what. It can certainly happen.
Did you sell? Did you make any changes?
Not really. No, I haven't yet. I've basically just been sitting in my hands for the last week and a bit. I've been slowly consolidating into the majors for the last few months, and taking some money out of crypto. But I'm basically just waiting to get a little more time. Like, I've got a lot of real life stuff happening. My whole family's in town celebrating my dad's birthday and stuff like that for this last week. So I think like next week, I'm going to properly have like, a full day or two to sit down and be like, all right, I'm going to properly dedicate it to like coming up with a plan, a strategy, and actually putting that into place now and figuring out what I'm going to be selling and reallocating. Hopefully, prices haven't completely crashed by then. I think if we're sitting at around like 60K Bitcoin a week from now, my plan is probably to try and sell like 50% of my portfolio.
Wow, really? Into stables. And when you say your spidey sense is going off, any specific indicators or catalysts you can point to that are leading to that?
It's sort of like a combination of a whole bunch of things. One is just the cost of living crisis around the world, and like just talking to quote unquote normies or normal people, friends of mine who aren't in crypto, and just hearing how people are struggling to, rent is going up, inflation is kicking people in the ass, and grocery bills are expensive, and people don't have that much disposable income, and unemployment is sort of, it's low, but it's sort of creeping up on the rise. AI is taking people's jobs. Like, there's all sorts of stuff happening on that sort of macro level that makes me think, who's going to come in and buy our bags. The other side of that equation is the institutions, and all right, they can come in with ETFs and they have been buying bags, and so like that's the counterpoint to that. Another thing is just sort of like a lot of people I follow on Twitter, I think, are having similar thoughts to me. We were talking off air before about OSF and how he was maybe a little less bullish than he has been in the past. And he put out a tweet this week saying how his strategy is to be like half in, 50% in crypto and 50% out or in stables. I mean, I've seen a few other people with that sort of sentiment. The whole like meme coin mania and the proliferation of just the quantity of coins and tokens and blockchains and layer twos and layer threes. And again, I've spoken about this before, but there's just so much stuff out there that's really vying for attention. And it's very difficult to imagine like everything pumping ever again. And I think it's going to be the majors that pump, and a select few altcoins. And so that's part of the thinking. And just like the length of time, like we're coming up on a year into this bull market. Like, things really kicked off October last year, or thereabouts. And bull markets don't generally last years and years and years and years. If we look at the past, yeah, maybe they've been, a couple of years, and we can draw parallels on the past and stuff like that. But this cycle has already proven to be different to all previous cycles. Like, we hit an all-time high before the halving. That's never happened before. And so I think placing too much stock in previous cycles is a danger. And I look at it and go, we're a year into the bull market. It's probably not a great time. Like, if I had, this is another tweet we'll probably get to later. If I had like $1 million in cash and stables, would I go out and just like buy crypto at these current prices? Or would I wait for a dip maybe, or dollar cost average in? And I think these aren't like fire sale prices where I'm like, oh my God, I got to buy now or it's going to take off. That was, 3-digit ETH. That was 18K Bitcoin. That was a year ago. And so all of that coming together, it's got my spidey senses where I'm just trying to take a little more risk off the table. And I think, yeah.
I want to be clear here, and I know that we're going to get a whole bunch of comments on this video and this show of people being like, "What are you talking?" This is the type of content that nobody wants to hear. But that's exactly why we need to produce this type of content, because you need to hear alternative points of view. So feel free to yell at us in the comments if you want to yell at us, and you want to yell at Zeneca. You can go onto his Twitter and you can yell at him all you want. You won't be the only one that's yelling at him this week.
Many
Sorry,
people
Zen.
did. Actually, the amount of engagement I got on that tweet, it's like, if you want engagement, just be bearish on crypto Twitter and you'll
Yeah,
get everyone coming at you. Ironically, that just made me a little more bearish because it just made me feel that everyone is a bit overexposed and everyone is blindly bullish. Yeah, it's a little scary.
yeah, yeah. Everyone's greedy, right? And so they're upset at anybody who doesn't see it the way they see it. And when everybody in the room thinks the way you think, then you got to question, like, hey, what's going on here? Am I talking to the wrong people? So hopefully listening to the show opens your eyes to another take. Now, this being said, I want to be clear. As you said off the top, it doesn't mean that you think 100% the bull cycle is over. You actually think more likely the bull cycle is still on. You just think there is a chance. There's not a 0% chance. And also this past week, you put out another tweet, which sort of takes another take on this. You said Bitcoin to 1 million is inevitable. Your challenge is not to overtrade yourself to death between now and then and find yourself with 8 quadrillion meme coin tokens worth $0 whilst having 0 Bitcoin despite spending your entire life on crypto Twitter. Explain the other side of this, which is that you do believe Bitcoin is going to 1 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, I actually put this tweet out before my other one, and I still believe this very, very much. Like, I think if you look at like a 10-year time horizon or like a long enough time horizon, Bitcoin will hit $1 million. It's like, to me, it's almost inevitable. A, because of, the dollar being inflated to hell and devalued and all that kind of stuff. But B, it's a finite supply. I believe in crypto. Bitcoin is the OG crypto. It's a good store of value. It's got all the reasons in the world to eventually hit $1 million. The problem is that most people, again, myself included, for most of my crypto career, I'm starting to correct it a bit now, have not held that much in Bitcoin. It's like most of the people that are tuning in every day, especially to crypto Twitter and trading, have very low to no Bitcoin exposure and are sitting on meme coin bags, alternative L1 bags, NFTs, all sorts of junk that they're trying to get, a 10x on, a 50x on, a 100x on, a 5x on, in a week or in a day, and just trying to trade and flip and play that game at the risk of missing out on just holding Bitcoin for years. And I think that the best strategy for 95 to 99% of people in terms of investing in crypto is to buy Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol and just hold for 10 years. And most people aren't going to do that because it's boring. It's not exciting. And most people think that they can outperform the market. And it is what it is. But I really think that's the best strategy. And yeah, it's like you just see it all the time. The amount of meme coins and stuff people are trading today, every week, every month, it's just all around us, it's gotten out of hand, I think. And I think that there's going to be so many people that in 2030 will look back and be like, I had $25,000 of crypto in 2024. If I just bought half a Bitcoin then, it'd be worth $500,000 now. And instead, I have almost nothing because, I got burned out. I lost all my money in crypto and I gave up. Or there'll be stories similar to that where people just go back. And I mean, even myself, I'm like, I wish if in 2021 or even like end of 2022, just went and just like sold everything and put it into Bitcoin or ETH or whatever, and then just held that, I would have done better than trying to trade in and out of the different markets every single day.
But that's not fun.
It's a lot. It's a big mentality shift. Like I'm working on it. I'm going through it myself, where I'm trying to figure out, now that I'm back in Australia, it's like, what do I want to do with my time and my life and what else? And a big part of me is just finding myself being steered towards this idea of literally just the most boring strategy ever, both in crypto and out of crypto. Just buy index funds for like my stock market portfolio, which I always intend to do anyway, and then just buy the majors in crypto and just do other things in life, like pick up a hobby, do some more cooking, work out, and just prevent myself from doing trading. Maybe I'll do like some advisory stuff in the space because I love crypto to death, and like this is where I want to spend my life. I think it's the future, but I'm not sure that trading crypto is where I want to be spending my day-to-day time in life. Like the financial side of it, I'm pretty happy to be just buying and holding majors and then finding other ways to sort of like the hardest thing to do is sit on your hands in this space. And so it's like finding things to do to capture your time, to not FOMO into some random meme coin because you see it on Twitter and you think it's going to be the next Whiff or Pepe or whatever.
Isn't it so interesting how nobody wants to hear the Bears? And as a result, you really can get caught in a singular view mindset, which can lead you down the wrong path where you start to believe. And let's be real, there's no shortage of content out there, including our own content, which for good reason. I believe very much in our content, and our team is putting a lot of research into it, saying, price predictions and where we think we can get in the next 12 months because we still have bull left. But if you're still listening to this episode and you didn't leave in the first minute, which I fear that a lot of people will, because they'll be like, screw you, I don't want to hear your bear case. But if you're still here, then that's not a bad thing. We're not telling you to go sell it all right now. Definitely not. But we're telling you to make your own decisions, which is so important. Now, another thing that you put out this week that I just want to touch on is you asked a great question, which is you said, hypothetically, if you had 1.5 million in stables and wanted to keep it in crypto, where would you deploy it? You got a lot of different answers to this. What was the answer that you liked the most? And I've got to ask the obvious question, just are you asking this because this is your current state right now?
It's not my current state, but it might be my state if I do what I said I was planning to do in a week or two, assuming prices roughly hold, and sell like a lot of my crypto. I'll probably be in a state where I have like 1 million to 1.5 million in stables, and I'm trying to figure out what do I do with that. So yeah, it was hypothetical, but it might not be hypothetical in my future. And so I wanted to see what other people were thinking, as well as I have my own ideas. And probably the answer I liked the best was from this guy, Crypto Tax Made Easy. I've actually been working with him for my Australian crypto tax. He's an amazing guy, Matt. And he basically said he'd park it all in some sort of high yield, stable vault, getting, 5 to 10%. You can probably get 10% in this current climate. And then use the interest earned, which is $150,000 a year, 10 grand a month, and use that to buy risky assets. So, you have $10,000 a month to play the meme coin casino with. You have all this, that's a lot of money. And you can win, you can hit a 10x, you can hit a 20x, you can hit a 5x on that without hurting your initial capital. And I think that is probably the smartest and wisest and closest to what I would actually do response. I would hold a little bit of, I would buy some Bitcoin, I would buy some ETH. But the other part of it, like I asked him a follow question, which was, would you not buy some Bitcoin, ETH, or Sol at these current prices? And his answer was, no, I wouldn't. And that sort of made me think a little bit more as well, where I was like, maybe I don't want to be buying more Bitcoin. Oh, I mean, the hypothetical was I had no exposure, but maybe I don't want to be buying the majors at these prices, and just sort of wait and see, and use the interest, $10,000 a month, to maybe I can DCA into the majors, maybe I can buy some risky assets. And then if there's a big crash at some point, there probably will be a crash at some point. Like we know how crypto works. And even if we do hit 140K Bitcoin, there'll probably be a point in the next 5 years where it is below 50K, just because that's how these things tend to go. Then I could buy. And so I thought that was the best answer. There were a lot of people who were like, 50% Bitcoin, 30% Sol, 20% ETH. There were actually a lot of people like 80% Sol and 50% Sol. And like that was the people's major position. And a lot of people weren't bullish on ETH, which is kind of to be expected based on what people are feeling in the market these days. Makes me more bullish on ETH. I don't know. Maybe
That's because that makes me more bullish on ETH too.
actually that is going to get wrecked. But yeah, I just have that bullishness on ETH that is not popular at the moment. But yeah, and then there were some crazy answers that were like 80% whiff and all in meme coins and risk on assets. But the general trend, most people seem to deploy all of it into crypto tokens, and very few people said majors. Very few people said stables. And so that also made me think that, maybe, I don't know, maybe that's how people are thinking about their own portfolios, and everyone is like close to 100% deployed, and people don't have that much money in stables, which means that tends to be what happens as we get closer to tops of market cycles. People are just all in 100% in, and they don't have any dry powder to keep buying with. And then we need outside capital to keep coming in and getting the price to go up, which we probably do have for a while coming, especially with the ETFs and institutions. But yeah, it was very insightful to read all the answers, I think.
Let me ask you this. not many people listening to this show are going to be in your position where they could have a mil plus in stables and take and the yield of that would probably, if you're in if you can get 50 to 150K annual in yield, that could cover your cost of living. That's a different situation than most of our people are in. If you were in a different situation, as most of our listeners are, where I actually don't know what the average is, but let's say it's somewhere in the range of like 50K to a couple 100K. Let's take that range. Would that change your strategy here in terms of stables versus majors?
It again depends because everyone is in a different risk tolerance place in life. It would probably change it a little bit, but not a lot. And by that I mean the idea behind having the 1.5 million in stables and using the yield to live off or buy the riskier assets with is to not deploy it all immediately. And so I think, let's say we'll use 50K at the lower end of that. I would say maybe just take that 50K and then like say, all right, every month I'm going to put 2K into the majors and just like slowly DCA in at current prices. And if they go up, then great. You've made a good appreciation. If they go down, then you're buying it at cheaper and cheaper prices. Or maybe set aside like $500 a month to play with on like the riskiest meme coins whatsoever. But don't I would say the idea is probably not to deploy all of it immediately and just take your time building a position over a longer period, because the risk of buying and having it crash by 80% is very, like, that's catastrophic. Whereas it's not that likely that you're going to miss out on a 4 to 5x uptick if you don't buy it all right now. Like, you probably have some time to build your positions and take your time. And probably the biggest piece of advice I would have, whether you have 1.5 million, 50,000, or 1,000, is consolidate. Like, don't spread yourself too thin. Buy as few tokens as possible. Buy the things you have the most conviction in and just hold those. So, you want to be a little bit diversified. You don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Like, going 100% Sol or ETH is probably a little bit too risky for most people, because you never know, some random black swan catastrophic event could come across specifically for that token. And that's why most people say, Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, just like split across the three majors. That's probably diversified enough for most people. I think most people don't need to have more than 5 tokens, just like most people don't need to have more than an index fund in the stock market.
It's so simple, but it's so hard. Isn't it? Isn't it wild? Like,
It is. It's so hard. One piece of advice I would give people is try and like segregate or separate your long-term investments, which are your big major coins, from your gambling bag. And so go to the extent of having like a separate ledger hardware wallet set up, which is your vault wallet where you hold your stable coins, and then keep that ledger somewhere that you can't easily access it. Like, give it to put it in your parents, back cupboard, or if they have a safe, put it in there, or put it somewhere that you can't just run to your desk drawer and get it out and like ape into some meme coin because you got really bullish in the moment. Give yourself some separation where it takes you a few hours at least to get access to the funds, because usually within those few hours you'll calm down and you won't FOMO into something. And then have a separate hot wallet or another vault or whatever account where that's the money you're gambling with. That's the money you can put into meme coins. That's the money you can put into whatever other non-major crypto that you want. And then if that goes to zero, at least you haven't lost your biggest percentage of your portfolio, your main bag. And separate the two and keep them distinct from one another.
yeah, it's great advice. I want to know, everybody listening, I want to know how big your portfolio is. If you're willing to share, let us know the size of your portfolio, because it'd be really helpful for us to know, do you have $1,000? Do you have $50,000? Do you have $100,000? Do you have $1,000,000? And I know everyone's going to be different, but it's really helpful. And at the same time, I also want to know what your risk tolerance is, right? Are you there with 10,000 and a low risk tolerance because you have a lot of dependence and a lot of expenses? Or are you sitting there with 100,000 or $1,000,000 and you're like, let's go. I got high risk tolerance. I want to go all in. Let us know. That'd be really interesting to understand. Zeneca, thanks so much for this episode. This was not the episode I expected to do this week, but an important one for sure.
Yeah, hopefully it made people think a little bit and come to some sensible decisions. And again, like I am still bullish. I think the bull market is not over, but I think there's a 20% chance, let's say, that it is.
Don't crucify Zeneca for taking a alternative point of view, guys. Be nice to him. Be nice to him. Thanks so much for listening, and everybody, remember, none of this is financial advice. Investing in crypto is risky, and you should only invest what you can afford to lose. If you want to support the show, make sure you subscribe, give us a like, give us a comment. These are the types of shows that you guys need to listen to, because you can't just have, we're not the show that's going to give you bull every day. We're going to give you alternative points of view. So I hope you subscribe, because I hope that's what you want. I hope you want diversity, which is going to lead you to make the best decisions. Thanks for listening in, everybody. Have a wicked awesome day. We'll see you next time.